Thanks for joining us on our Big Ten Conference Report. And we have our Big Ten Conference correspondent, Cody Goodwin, here. Thanks for joining us, Cody.
Appreciate you having me, Earl, as always. Got a lot to talk about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Big Ten never sleeps, especially this past week or so on the recruiting front. Got a lot of news going on. I know maybe a month ago, you and I sat here talking about Mike Poeta, his hire, and we talked, recruiting needed to be a big focus of his, and got some good news on that front last week.
Absolutely, yeah, and they pulled in from the class that I think they're just only getting ready to really talk to and really fully recruit as well. Christian Carroll, number 2 ranked 220-pounder in the country. Christian Carroll, 14th pound for pound at the Matt Scout rankings from our buddy Willie Saylor. Class of 23, right? So really young, but very, very talented, right? He's made runs at both most recently at the Junior World Team Trials. This guy's got all sorts of talent. I think they're probably going to project him at heavyweight, which means he'll come in. This seems like the likely replacement after Luke Luffman's career is over with, right? So they're able to kind of lock that guy down. And, I like this fit for for Illinois. Again, he's really talented. He's one of those guys where, I know college coaches spend a lot more time maybe targeting more athletic heavyweights after we've been able to see what guys like, Mason Paris and Gable Steveson and, Tony Cassiope, guys that aren't the, full 270, 275, 280 range. They're more, somewhere around, the 240, 250 or, they can move a little bit. They've got quicker feet. They can shoot, but they're also not afraid to go upper body if they need to. We know Christian Carroll's pretty decorated when it comes to his freestyle and Greco stuff, so he's not afraid to go aerial if they need to. But, just a real sound, explosive wrestler who, I think if you ask a lot of people, still probably tapping into, his full potential, really. You get to some of these bigger guys and, for a guy like him, who as young as he is to, be as accomplished as he is, and I bring up the Junior World Team Trials run again, where he looked very, very impressive in both styles at the tournament, was able to make a pretty deep run. It was a lot of fun to watch, right? He ran into, if I believe correctly, I'm pulling this straight from memory. I wish I had it in front of me, but I think he ran into Braxton Amos. Not a bad guy to lose to at the Junior World Team Trials. That there may not be another hotter wrestler in the country than Braxton Amos, who is obviously a little bit older than him, a little bit more seasoned, wrestled some different competition, but that just kind of tells you where Christian Carroll is at, right? I mean, this is a guy that, he's real talented. Obviously, there's still a lot more there for him to give, and excellent pickup for Mike Poeta. And I think when we talked about, him trying to keep the in-state talent in-state. But if you're able to pluck a guy like Christian Carroll out of the state of Indiana that has done very, very well in terms of producing top high school talent, I'd say that's going to go a long ways in helping, really fully build that Illinois program up. We talked last time about just the pieces that they have, adding Christian Carroll to that mix, probably more so for the future than maybe just the immediate, what they're trying to do, in the next couple of seasons. That's big. That's big for Illinois. That's really big for Christian Carroll too, to get that locked down. Now he's got the next couple of seasons to just kind of wrestle and add to his resume, which I think we're all knowing that he's fully capable of doing.
Yeah, he's really impressed me as far as just kind of being a physical specimen for a high school sophomore. So also class of 23, the top dog, the big one, Cody Chittum is off the board. He picks Minnesota. I know that for me, that was a little bit of a surprise, or maybe a lot of bit of a surprise. I know I've seen him wear an Iowa gear at a couple tournaments over the years. He feels like he fits in well at Iowa, but, huge get for Minnesota.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is a guy that, I normally cover Iowa, right? Just for the Des Moines Register and for Hawk Central. And that was a name I have been told to watch, just by Iowa fans and just by, talking with other wrestlers and coaches. And, it seemed like, just the way that Cody Chittum wrestles, and we've seen him wrestle at a lot of bigger events, like, who's number one. He was at the Junior World Team Trials. So I believe he only wrestled Greco. But this is a guy that, he kind of wrestles with that Iowa style, right? He's a little bit of a bulldog, kind of leads with his head, and he's really not afraid to fire off on all cylinders. I think it was, he ended up beating Wyatt Henson at who's number one. This would have been last fall. So very impressive. Another guy that is really young, even though he may not be super young. I think, 18-year-old sophomore, about to be an 18-year-old junior. So some kind of, funky numbers and funky math there when it comes to, his actual age, and then when it comes to his classification. But I mean, this guy has the goods, man. He's really talented. So I mean, the fact that he's able to, Minnesota is able to get him early, I think we'll see. I mean, I guess we should say the same thing about Christian Carroll as well. These guys are still class of 2023. There's a lot of time left before they officially put ink to paper. So we'll see if, Illinois and Minnesota can hang on to these commitments. But if they're able to, man, this is tremendous get for Minnesota. Cody Chittum, top 5 pound for pound wrestler in the country, currently ranked number 1 at 145 pounds. That's according to Mat Scouts again. This guy, I mean, he's legit. Like I said, he's very aggressive. He's not afraid to just go ahead and shoot, literally at all costs. I mean, he's got a really good feel for the sport. He's not afraid to, obviously he has very good technique and is able to set a lot of things up offensively, and has good enough hips to evade certain attacks defensively. But, this is a guy that also sometimes he just kind of throws his body in there to take a shot, good, bad, and different, and just kind of sees what happens, right? He's not afraid to truly wrestle. Not unlike, I don't want to compare him to Yanni Diakomahalis, but Yanni's not afraid to just kind of throw his hips in there and see what happens sometimes because his hips are so good. I don't know that Cody Chittum has that good of hips, but he does have that mindset to just, hey, let's go create action and wrestle. And if we end up giving up a couple points, he'll get up, escape, and boom, he's right back in there. So tremendous get for the Gophers. Again, younger guy, just like Christian Carroll. So it's going to be a little bit while before we see him in a Gopher uniform. But, a lot of people had talked about him wearing Iowa gear. I believe there were a couple competitions where he also wore some Minnesota stuff too. So maybe not terribly surprising to see him commit to the Gophers, but excellent pickup there for the Gopher program for Brandon Eggum. That's a program that is, very, I don't want to say quietly, but maybe kind of quietly compared to some other Big Ten programs, building a little bit of momentum there just with Gable Steveson and Brayton Lee. And, they were able to pull Michael Blockus up from UNI, and, they've been able to pick up a couple of transfers here and there. And now they add Cody Chittum to the mix to, kind of be the centerpiece of their future. Lots of good things going on up there in Gopher land. This is a very impressive pickup for sure.
And one thing I like to look at in recruiting is, this area where the coaches pick from, a state or a region, part of the state. And, Minnesota hasn't went south like that in, I can remember. And Georgia, he's from Tennessee, but trains with a lot of Georgia kids. That area is really blowing up. I
think they call it the Boom Ranch RTC.
Yeah, Boom Ranch, exactly. The juniors and, sophomore class are great. So, we saw it at Iowa where you get Kemmer, then you get a Lee and Young and Murin. So I'm wondering if that's going to start, the kids from the South coming up to Minnesota.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Could this open that door? We'll see what happens.
All right, so another guy that you've covered, Austin Gomez, made his transfer decision. It's kind of been a roller coaster the past 6 months for him. I think it was December he announced that he retired due to injuries, and about a month or so ago, he said I don't know if he said he was coming back, but he kind of insinuated that he was thinking about it, and then it's Wisconsin. Do you have any insight as far as how this went, as far as, maybe not being cleared by one doctor and then getting the go ahead?
Yeah. So kind of what happened is he's got a pretty long rap sheet of injuries, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's struggled primarily with concussions, I think when he made the junior world team, I think that was back in 2018, junior men's freestyle. He tweaked his knee the summer before then, so he wasn't able to go compete then. He struggled with a concussion during his redshirt year when he was at Iowa State, was able to wrestle the 2018-19 season, had a tremendous season. He beat Austin DeSanto in the Iowa State duel. He notched a couple of other really big wins, reached the blood round of the NCAA championships. I mean, really bright future here. This is a guy that's explosive, Izzy style, Glenbard North. You know, we've kind of known who he is, right? Like, this is a guy that we've seen and we've had high expectations for, but, you know, hey, another concussion, his redshirt sophomore year. So he's not able to compete there. He ends up getting cleared for the medical hardship. So he's able to keep his eligibility where it's at. And then COVID hits and he has to deal with another concussion. And it was that concussion where, you know, that's third concussion in a row, I guess, if we're keeping track. It's a lot to deal with, right? And one of the doctors, basically, the first doctor I guess he saw said, hey, you know, if you want to stick around in wrestling long term, you got to really start thinking about your long term future, which is to say, you know, hey, let's protect your brain, right? Mm-hmm. So he decided, you know, hey, I think I'm going to step away. I'm going to retire. That was when the announcement came in December. So he was kind of a wrestler coach in the room for Iowa State. He was working out, not super hard, but he was kind of helping coach up some of the younger guys because you know, him, in addition to Alex Mackel leaving because he, you know, kind of ready to move on and be a father, you know, and first off, shout out to that guy. He recently had his kid not too long ago. So congrats to Alex Mackel there. But, you know, Iowa State had true freshmen at 125 and 133 pounds this year. You know, it was a little bit of a cycle at 125 trying to figure out who it was, but they ended up going with Hawaii native Kyson Terrakina. And then at 133, New York native Zach Redding stepped in. And, you know, both those guys end up getting to the NCAA tournament. Austin Gomez, there's a little bit of influence there, just kind of helping those guys get adjusted to their first year of college wrestling. But after the season, Austin Gomez sees another doctor because he gets that itch again, you know, hey, where am I feeling? What am I doing? And that second doctor says, hey, you know, I think you can do this if you take a few extra precautions. And, you know, one of the things that Austin told me, because I got him on the phone after he made his announcement that said, hey, I think I want to try and wrestle again. I'm going to enter the transfer portal was, you know, it was maintaining his weight down at 133 that really caused a lot of these injuries to unfold, you know, and, you know, he had to hold 133 because you look at Iowa State's lineup, you know, he couldn't beat Ian Parker at 141. He could have maybe ballooned all the way up to 149, but you have Jarrett Dagan there. And, you know, I know Iowa State wrestled Cam Robinson there a little bit there, true freshman out of Pennsylvania. They're very, very excited about him. So, you know, it was kind of 133 or, you know, you're going to kind of be a backup. And, you know, I think he kind of read the tea leaves and, you know, said, hey, if I really want this opportunity, 141 might be where it's at. Let's play it. You know, he's got 3 years of eligibility. He's going to jump in the transfer portal. So that led to that announcement. I think that was in, you know, they may have been in like early April, late April, somewhere around there. So, you know, and it's funny because I remember he made the, you know, when he made that announcement, I got him on the phone just to kind of pick his brain. That's where all these details came from. And another thing that he told me was that, you know, hey, he's like, I got 5 visits. I want to take advantage of the visits. He was in the transfer portal because he's already a current college athlete. He's getting a lot of phone calls trying to set up his visits for June 1. And, you know, I sent him a message on June 1. I said, hey, man, like, enjoy the process. I'll be in contact. He told me, he said, hey, first one up's going to be in Madison, Wisconsin. I'll let you know how it goes. And, you know, he let the entire world knew how it went that very first day because Chris Bono did not let him leave without announcing a commitment. So, you know, Austin Gomez that very first day decided on Madison. He's going to go to Wisconsin. He's going to be a Badger. And I think it really fits, right? I mean, when you look at kind of the makeup of the Badgers and, you know, 141 was a weight they really struggled at. They had a few different guys wrestle there this past year. They went to combined 1 and 12. They did not qualify that weight for the NCAA championships. They did not win a match at that weight at the Big Ten tournament. That's where Gomez is probably going to slot in. And, you know, you kind of look at the rest of the Badger lineup. You know, Austin Gomez is going to kind of, you know, he brings a lot of firepower when he's healthy, right? We talked about his credentials. He's made a couple of age level world teams. He's reached the NCAA blood round. He's got 3 years of eligibility left. So we'll kind of see what he has left in the tank. But then you look at the rest of the Badger lineup. You know, they've got NCAA qualifier, that 4 NCAA qualifiers coming back. Eric Barnett, 125-pound All-American. Trent Hilger, heavyweight All-American. He's going to be there. Evan Wick, I know, is in the transfer portal, but he hasn't announced his new plans yet. So maybe they're still trying to, you know, recruit Evan Wick to come back. That's an All-American at 165. You insert Austin Gomez in there. Braxton Amos is going to join. They also brought in Kent State transfer Andrew McNally, who won a MAC title last year and reached the quarterfinals of the NCAA championships. You know, you bring in Austin Gomez, this is going to be a pretty formidable Badger team coming in next season. So I think, you know, that probably built some excitement. That was an easy sell job when it came to, you know, how are Chris Bono and John Reed are going to keep this guy in Madison before he takes some of his other visits. You know, Austin Gomez, he listed off a handful of schools, including Wisconsin, Oklahoma State, Illinois schools he really wanted to check out. And, To be quite honest, I thought Illinois made a lot of sense, but then, he made his announcement for Wisconsin. I started kind of looking at the lineup, where he's going to fit in, the program that he's joining. I think it made a lot of sense to me. It made a lot of sense to me why he ultimately decided Wisconsin. And, I'm excited for that kid because I know that when he's healthy, he's very fun to watch. He's very personable. He tweets it all the time. Scared money don't make money. That's kind of become his thing now. But, when that kid's healthy and he's having fun and he's enjoying wrestling, it's a lot of fun and the sport is a lot better off for it. So, no cheering in the press box, right? But I'm rooting for that kid to, stay healthy, find some success. And who knows? I mean, he could add to a pretty scary Badger team this upcoming season.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He's been one of my favorite guys to watch over the years. All right, so let's go to U23s. We probably don't have enough time to list, every single placer from the Big Ten because it was very dominated by the Big Ten. So let's talk about Iowa, Nebraska. They both have multiple champions. I think it's maybe telling of who you've had in the Nebraska room that you have a champion at 74 kilos, champion at 79 kilos with, Burrows and Green and Berger and all those guys throughout the years.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nebraska and Iowa they kind of stole the show a little bit, right? I know I was joking with you when we were, writing up our conference recaps of U23s that the Big Ten basically just kind of flexed on everybody because ultimately put 5 guys on the U23, just the freestyle world team. I think they only got 1 guy through on the Greco side, Ohio State's Nick Boykin, who shout out to that guy. First off, I mean, senior Greco title, made the U23 world team. I mean, that guy he's wrestling very, very well. But yeah, on the freestyle side of things, 5 guys make the world team, 2 from Nebraska, like you mentioned, Peyton Robb, Mikey Labriola. Absolutely, probably not a surprise at all that guys that are around the same weights as Berger and Burrows and Green are, starting to find some success internationally, at least, domestic freestyle success. We'll see how they do at the World Championships in November. But, very impressive, I thought, runs by those guys. Peyton Robb, you look at who he had to beat Quincy Monday in the best of 3 finals. And that's after kind of blowing through his first 4 matches. Labriola, he notched a handful of really good wins on his way. He beat the junior world teamer Donnell Washington. He beat Illinois' DJ Shannon. He beat Grandview All-American Casey Randles, who's always been really tough against the D1 guys. And then Drexel's Michael O'Malley swept him in the best of 3 finals. That was after O'Malley beat Iowa's Patrick Kennedy, who's been very, very good freestyle-wise, still just a true freshman, but very impressive win there for Michael O'Malley. 2 Nebraska guys, 2 Iowa guys also made the team. Hawkeye duo of Miles Wilson and Tony Cassiope. Cassiope, heavyweight NCAA All-American. We know how good that guy is, but very impressive run from him, which kind of followed up his, finals at the Senior Freestyle National Championships in Coralville. He beat Hofstra's Zach Knighton Ward. He beat Lehigh's Jordan Wood. And then in the finals, he beat another Big Ten guy, Lucas Davison from Northwestern, had to beat him in the 3rd match. But very excellent tournament from Tony Cassiope. And then Miles Wilson, guy that maybe not a lot of people are super familiar with, but, he's in the Iowa program, kind of in that 74, 84 range. He backs up Michael Kemmer and then, either Abe Assad or Nelson Brands. He's been dealing with some injuries over the last couple of years, but, hey, like we saw that weekend in Lincoln, when he's healthy, that's a guy that can make some noise. Absolutely. So, not a ton of, high profile victories on his way to the finals, but once he got to the finals, he defeated Cornell's Chris Foca in the 3rd match. So that was very impressive showing, I thought, from Miles Wilson. Kind of shows the Hawkeyes depth a little bit there that, a not usual starter is going to go ahead and make this age level world team and compete on the world stage later this year. So impressive stuff from them. And then our 5th guy from the Big Ten, just real quick, Northwestern's Chris Cannon, kind of very quietly running through a really tough field at 61 kilograms to make the team. He ended up beating Michigan's Dylan Ragusin in the semifinals. He had to rally from 5-2 to win that one, 13-8 over Ragusin. So really good match there. And then he ended up beating high school star Jesse Mendez in the finals. I know Jesse Mendez, that one went to a 3rd match. Mendez got hurt, so he just recently had surgery. Sounds like he'll be okay for the Junior World Championships. But Chris Cannon, hey, Northwestern, they've got another representative after Yaya Thomas made the Junior World Team a couple years ago as well. So Northwestern consistently putting these guys in position for some freestyle success. That's always really cool to see.
Yeah, the one guy I really want to see on the international stage is Tony Cassiope, just because a couple years ago, he beats Mason Paris at the Open, if I'm getting my timeline correct, and doesn't show up at the World Team Trials, and then Paris goes and wins a world title. So, Cassiope, he's got to be up there with those guys. I'm not 100% familiar with everybody that's going to be wrestling on the junior world level, but he's got to be in the mix.
Absolutely. And the cool thing I think about Cassiope too is that, he's always, behind Gable, behind Mason Paris. He lost to Gwizdowski at the senior freestyle finals, but this is kind of his opportunity to really, hey, you're part of this depth that America has at heavyweight. Let's go show it off at the U23 World Championships and see what you can do, right?
Exactly. So last thing that we wanted to touch on, I know I love seeing programs promote themselves and do things maybe a little unusual to showcase a dual meet, maybe a football stadium, maybe a theater or whatever. But Purdue and Iowa State have a pretty cool dual meet set up. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, man, this is a really cool thing. Iowa State and Purdue are going to wrestle at Humboldt High School in Iowa, small town in northern Iowa a little bit. That's a small town that's very rabid and passionate about high school sports. And especially they love Humboldt High School sports. They love Humboldt High School alumni, which is how this duel ultimately came together. You look at the head coaches of both of these programs, Tony Ursuline from Purdue. He was a state champ at Humboldt. Kevin Dresser at Iowa State. He was also a state champ at Humboldt. They both went on to find collegiate success, and now they're both very successful collegiate wrestling coaches. And this is something that has been in the works since Kevin Dresser came back to Iowa State. Just something to kind of help build interest in his program, something to help kind of, Iowa is very much a black and gold dominated state, right? Just with Iowa's success, not just in wrestling, but in all sports. And so, Kevin Dresser, since he's been here, has been trying to help, add some Cardinal and gold to the mix, right? Let's get Iowa State out there. Let's see if we can build some interest, grab a few more fans, or at least find maybe some Cyclone fans that have maybe lost a little bit of interest over the years. And what better way to do that than to go back to your hometown, showcase what you've been doing. And he found the perfect partner in Purdue because, again, Tony Ursuline's from Humboldt. He's able to go back. I fully expect that gym to be packed. I think it's going to be really awesome. You look at kind of the two teams that they have this year, and they're two marquee wrestlers, right? Or at least two of their marquee wrestlers. David Carr from Iowa State at 157, Kendall Coleman from Purdue at 157. That's going to be pretty cool in a high school gym. So, this has been in the works for quite a while. They actually had it planned for the 2020-2021 season, but COVID kind of threw an axe at that. The Big Ten wasn't allowed to wrestle out of conference opponents, and the Big 12 forced Iowa State to play by certain protocols in order to host certain dual meets. So this was in the works for last season. COVID happened. Now they put it back on the schedule this past season. It's going to be later in December, right before the holiday. And I think they're going to work in tandem with Humboldt High School to maybe have a high school duel or some sort of high school competition before the duel, and then they'll set it up to have Iowa State and Purdue wrestle. So they're expecting a sold out gym. This isn't the first time that I've seen schools do this. I remember there was a few years ago that University of Missouri and University of Virginia wrestled at Park Hill High School in Kansas City. And before that, Park Hill High School and Liberty High School, two really well-known, respected high school programs. They had a duel beforehand, and then Mizzou and Virginia wrestled. And so that was really cool because I know Missouri at that point in time, they had a handful of Kansas City natives in their lineup, like Daniel Lewis, who was from Blue Springs, John Ernesty, who was from Park Hill. I think, I don't know if Zach Elam was in the lineup at that point for Missouri. That may have been before his time, but, really cool for those guys to kind of get that opportunity to wrestle in front of their hometown. And this will be really cool for both Dresser and Ursuline to kind of show off their products, right? Because Purdue's going to have a really tough team. They've got a lot of All-American potential in their lineup. Iowa State, fresh off of David Carr winning an NCAA title. They're going to have, some younger guys in the lineup, but also, Jared Dagan's coming back. Ian Parker's going to be there. This could be a really, really fun duel and also just a fun showcase for the sport. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait to watch that. All right, Cody. So we're going to wrap it up today. Where can everybody check you out on social media? Your other writings?
Yeah, man. You can find me obviously at InterMat. I'm on Twitter at Cody Goodwin, and then you can always find any Iowa-related wrestling stuff at DesMoinesRegister.com, HawkCentral.com, and your boy's also on Instagram, Cody J Goodwin. I'm trying to be a little bit more active there, so you can find me there. It's Cody J Goodwin on Instagram, just Cody Goodwin on Twitter. Yeah, always tweeting and talking wrestling. We got some big competitions coming up this month too, so everybody should be tuned in as much as you can for sure.
All right. Well, we will check in with you a little later this month, but thanks for joining us today, Cody.
Right on. Thanks, Earl.